obtained her MBA, and she has never looked back. I will not go into the details of her work life and all the other things that she did. But what I do want to say is that throughout her tremendous career of service, Dr. Sirobe has remained a family woman, and nothing has made this aspect of her character more clearer than the book, An Ode to My Mother-in-Law, Winnie Sirobe, A Mentorship of Love and Honor, the book which caused us to invite her here today. So let me say a few things about the book, having said a few things about her. Right at the beginning of the book, in the dedication page, it is written, "This book is dedicated to a woman who held my hand with warmth, nurtured my heart with love, and led me to a path of family love. That woman is my mother-in-law, the late Mrs. Winnie Sirobe." So if I had time, I would have titled my brief appraisal of the book, Held, Nurtured, and Led, because those are the big verbs in that beginning paragraph that I have just quoted from. In the foreword of the book, Mr. Gawa Sirobe, husband of the author and son of the subject of the book, suggests that this book is about, and I quote, "an ordinary love between two exceptional women, an ordinary bond between two women that I love deeply," end of quote. However, when one reads the whole book and drinks it in, when one considers the sometimes lyrical narrative of the book against the backdrop of what the author calls, and I quote her, "the rich history that is buried under orchestrated abject poverty," in page 100. One must conclude that there is nothing ordinary about the daughter-in-law, mother-in-law bond, which is the subject of this book. Not even the word extraordinary, in my view, captures the relationship between the woman from Matukanenko Tabanchu, that is the late Winnie Sirobe, also known as Sinki, and the woman from Kentani and Guguletu, Dr. Gloria Sirobe, whom I introduced. There is nothing ordinary or conventional about their relationship. This little book of 152 pages captures, in my view, what goes on in global and African cultures which are steeped in centuries of myth, fable, legend, and children's stories which are built around the character, or rather, it actually questions that reality of the character of the so-called mother-in-law from hell. I know all of us knows that character, the mother-in-law from hell. This book turns it over, turns it around. The mother-in-law from hell is often the target of stigma and the object of vendetta. Maybe the only character as tarnished, even more tarnished as the mother-in-law from hell, is the stepmother from hell. But the mother-in-law from hell is also a kind of stepmother. We all know the story of Cinderella that we grew up knowing about, and how the stepmother from hell tortured Cinderella and so on. This book goes against the grain of all that. And one wishes that these myths were only a matter of history and ancient cultural mores. And one wishes that these myths of mother-in-law from hell were only confined to some cultures and not to all cultures. But actually, they remain alive globally during our era across many cultures, including South African cultures. They are aspects of patriarchy. They are drivers of misogyny, always intersecting with other forms of bigotry, including racism and various forms of economic and cultural exclusion. I mean, the reason the mother-in-law is from hell is because she's a woman, because you don't have the equivalent of a father-in-law from hell. There's no such a myth at all. For this and related reason, this little book of Dr. Sirobe must not be taken at face value. And this is probably where I and her will quarrel a little bit. I hope not. It is a biography or a memoir of Mrs. Winnie Sirobe, but I suspect that it is about a little more than just a biography. It is more like an appraisal of a phenomenal woman and a distillation of lessons learned from her. The book does present the history of the Sirobes in a very captivating way, their maternal and paternal ancestries. But I suspect that what we have in this little book is more than an expanded family diary. There is a strategic approach to the selection, the telling, and the angles of the stories that are told in it. Yes, this book is about an ordinary love between two exceptional women, as Mr. Gawa Sirobe says, but I suspect that this is a little more than a book about a feel-good story of an outlier daughter-in-law and an outlier mother-in-law. I suspect this is a book about the evolution of a black family and its ability to overcome the limitations of black culture and the quest of the black communities to escape the economic stranglehold of apartheid. In spite of the many memorable and delectable interactions, encounters, and ventures of a daughter-in-law and mother-in-law that is contained in the book, I suspect that this book is not merely a manual, either about daughter-in-lawship or mother-in-lawship or even good wifeliness. It's a little more than that. Yes, it is a book about learning how to become a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law and about family, but we mustn't let the beautiful mother-in-law, daughter-in-law story deceive us into thinking that this book is apolitical. There is a harder core to this book. The story of Mrs. Winnie Sirobe and Dr. Gloria Sirobe is the story of the socio-political condition of the black woman in both urban and rural South Africa in the 1980s to the mid-2000s. In her preface to Ellen Kuzwayo's standard-setting classic, Call Me Woman, Nadine Gordimer comments that, and I quote her, "Perhaps the most striking aspect of this book is the least obvious." I think also the most striking aspect of this book of Dr. Gloria Sirobe is the least obvious. When we read it, we must read on the lines, we must read between the lines, we must read above the lines, we must read behind and below the lines. The book contains many fascinating paintings of milestones and icons other than its declared protagonist, Mrs. Winnie Sirobe. Consider, for example, the character of the original and senior Gawa Hadebe, after whom Gawa Sirobe was named. Gawa Hadebe features prominently in Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom. He was, alongside Walter Sisulu, arguably the greatest mentor that Nelson Mandela ever had. And there are stories told in Long Walk to Freedom about Gawa Hadebe and how he and Mandela were in this law firm, being the only black people at that time and how when Mandela arrived, Gawa Hadebe, who had already been there, gave him advice on how to handle life in that environment. So he tells the story, for example, of how when Mandela arrived, one of the workers' secretaries said to him, "We've bought 2 new cups for you and Gawa for tea. And when tea time comes, please use your new cups because we don't have calabar here." And of course, what Gawa Hadebe does is to say to Mandela, "Just do what I do. Don't listen to them." And Gawa Hadebe did not use the new cup. He took the cups of the white people and expected Mandela to follow suit. And Mandela was a coward at that time. He didn't. He decided not to have tea. So I wonder whether Gawa Sirobe is a little bit like that or not, whether he took after his namesake or not. There's also a reference to Moses Kotane, of course, who was married to the sister of Mrs. Winnie Sirobe, who is the subject of this book. So it's about a lot more than just the story of a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law. There are not many mothers-in-law who will go searching and choosing for a wedding dress with their daughters-in-law, especially for the dress of the daughter-in-law. I would like to hear more about that and how it happened. And also not many mothers-in-law who will not only go searching for the wedding dress with their daughter-in-law, but will pay for it. Because normally that dress is supposed to come from the other family. There are not many mothers-in-law who will take time and effort to mentor, to network, to enlist their daughters-in-law into a community of activists and volunteers who are all fighting for building an equitable society. Not many mothers-in-laws will take their daughters-in-law to the meeting of the YWCA, to the meeting of the Women's Club, to the consumer unions, housewives' leagues, and South African National Council for the Blind. Many mothers-in-law will not take that kind of travel. Nor are there many mothers-in-laws who will take you to meet the Ellen Kuzwayos, the Joyce Sirokas, the Sally Mutlanas, the Nonia Rampomanes, the Albertina Sisulus of this world. Similarly, I don't know many fathers-in-law who will teach their daughter-in-law how to drive on the right side of the road. But she had such a father-in-law. This book is indeed about Dr. Sirobe, how Dr. Sirobe, with the help of her mother-in-law, became a good makoti. But there is a chapter and several places in this book where the question is sharply posed: why house chores are delegated exclusively to women, and why these chores are unrecognized and unpaid, unrecognized as work, and therefore unpaid. So you find all these issues in this book. But most remarkable, and I'm about to conclude, is the fact that in this 152-page book, the author only begins to write about herself very briefly on page 91. So she really recuses herself, if you like, from the story as much as possible. But the little that she writes about herself in the book is breathtaking. She talks about how she established the Greenhouse Child Care Center, inspired by her mother-in-law, a facility that was a 7-days-a-week facility with 24 hours accommodation for young mothers. And guess who came to help her run that center? Back from retirement, her mother-in-law. She talks about how she was awarded the ESCOM Woman of the Year in the Most Innovative Community Project category, and how this happened in the presence of her mother-in-law and the likes of Ellen Kuzwayo. She talks about how President Mbeki asked her to join the leaders of 58 non-governmental organizations and to chair the Presidential Working Group for Women. And there's a part of the book where she regrets that this working group was dismantled when President Mbeki left office. She talks about how she, together with her colleagues, established Whiphold, and how, and I quote her, through Whiphold, large-scale commercial farming was found to be financially sustainable on communal land. Now, I began by talking about how she dedicates the book to the woman who held her hand, nurtured her heart, and led her. Can a daughter honor a mother better? Can a daughter-in-law show gratitude to a mother-in-law more intensely than we find in this book? Can a woman honor another woman more profoundly? I doubt. Elsewhere in the book, she writes about her mother-in-law, and this is how I conclude. She says, "You will find her name on the lips of her children, for whom she sacrificed everything to ensure they were taken care of, nurtured and educated. You will find her name on the hearts of the young women she encouraged to make different choices that changed the trajectory of their lives forever. You will find her memory in the community of Deep Kloof and others, where she worked tirelessly to make a difference to the lives of ordinary, vulnerable, and sometimes unseen people." End of quote. So you may not find the name Winnie Sirobe in big history books, but this is where you will find her name. Colleagues, staff and students, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Gloria Sirobe, the author of the August VC Book of the Month titled An Ode to My Mother-in-Law. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. What a beautiful introduction of the author, and what a beautiful introduction of the book itself. A round of applause, please, for Prof. Maluleke. Now, Mama, it's your turn, to talk to us about why you wrote the book. The floor is yours.
Wow. First, thank you very much, Program Director. Vice Chancellor, I can't believe you've done this. It's the most awesome write-up on the book I have had, and the book is more than a year old now. I can't show my appreciation. I need to have that with me. I need to boast that the whole Vice Chancellor of the second biggest university in the country just takes this book and strips it apart and relate in this fashion. I really need to pull rank everywhere I go, and thank you very much for that. Before I came here, your previous Chancellor, Dr. Gwen Ramogopa, said to me, "You will love TUT, please go there." And I think after a year, I would like to go back to her and say, "I love TUT." Just the love, the family support you get from here is amazing. And I've been to all your campuses, except Witbank, I think. I've made sure that I read that pulse everywhere. It's a beautiful university. Really, thank you. As to the question, why did I write the book? And if you find me a little bit emotional, you must understand, because my mother-in-law died on 9 August 2013, on Women's Day. So this month is a very complicated month for the family. In fact, when I told my sister-in-law that I'm going to launch the book on the 9th of August, deliberately, she said to me, please don't, because on 9th of August, all I do is to close the door. I don't want anyone next to me because I have to think about my mother. And I said to her, I'm going to launch the book maybe more for you then. I want you to open that door and celebrate her, and never again to think about her passing. So she did send me a message last week. Said, you won't believe it. I've forgotten about her passing. All I think about is how wonderful a book that you've launched in her name. So I've achieved mission accomplished. As far as the family is concerned, that passing is like any other event. They no longer concentrate on that day. They now concentrate on how did you bring back our mother back to the platforms as if she's still alive. That was not why I wrote the book. It's an interesting one because I've been wanting to write the book since 2013, when she passed. One of the reasons was that I do think that the story of these wonderful mothers is not told. And there's lots of them. So when I was going through the road shows last year on the book, I found a lot of stories like this. People whose mothers-in-laws threw everything at them to make it work and support the young family and support them to help build a home and all of that. But that story doesn't sit well in a Stokvel conversation or in a bar conversation because it's not full of juicy bits. I even look at that TV program, Mama Zala, and I'm like, how does somebody write something like this? But it is a commercial channel. It is meant to make money, and it is meant to have viewers. And of course, this book will not bring you the viewers because it does not have the tidbits about it. And so writing the book was one, to actually tell this other story about these great mothers. I do think that the sons also have to hear as well how great their mothers have been sometimes. But the story doesn't sit on the public platforms. But I think the second reason I wrote the book was to come back to the issue of the marriage, and that whole system was being addressed by all those processes. In our AI time and our computer time, it's not surprising that you can find your son sending you a WhatsApp, I want to get married. WhatsApp. You say, what? WhatsApp. Because there is a reason for that long, tedious process. From the time you decide to get married to the time you do get married. Mainly in that time, you are actually helping these two families to integrate. Because long after you are married, they remain family. Long after you are divorced, they remain family. Long after you've died, they remain family. So that process, and it's not a long process, I plead with the young people, just cope with it. It's not that long. And all those things that are required of you, you will look back and cannot believe that you were given that privilege in your life. to actually form that family with that other family in a way that is warm. And some of the things are hilarious. Swapping presents, umambeso, and it's not a gift day, by the way. It is an explanation to you young couple that this is what families do. So there's a lot of education that one wanted to show up in this book, that as we get modern, as we get advanced, as we get into the bigger world, can we make sure we don't leave behind who we are? And getting into the global world is that also when you sit in a room with people from everywhere in the world, Germany, Switzerland, and so on, very soon they revert back to their own cultural things. They are comfortable to talk about their roots and who they are and so on. In our case, we're quite keen to show we don't have that because you are embarrassed or you are, I don't know exactly. So part of this book is to say marriage can be used to actually reinforce these things. And let's take comfort in the fact that they are necessary, those processes. Big question about lobola. Why are you being priced? Why are you whatever? Behind lobola is a big story. And that too, we cannot reduce it into commercial. It's not commercial. And yeah, all I'm saying, Prof, is that I tried in this book to show one, first, that there are mothers like this. Number two, you are getting into a family system that you do not know. And you have to integrate yourself into that family system. It's theirs, it's not yours. And as you get into there, maybe your biggest mentor in getting into that system is the one who's been in it before, exactly in the same position 40 years ago, and managed to be here 40 years later. And that's the best mentor I can think of in terms of holding your hand into that system. And so I think the last point I thought the book needs to be written is that we are brought into these marriages not because of love and all of that. Of course, it's love thing, butterflies. But you are brought here to build these homes. You are brought here to perpetuate the life of this family. They look up to you to take it forward. And when all else is said and done, when you look back, even if you divorce, you must say, I've actually done my bit. I have moved this family forward. Maybe just didn't work, but I have. And so because we've got this big responsibility of building these families, we have the big responsibility to understand every issue of this family, how it works. Because yours is to advance it and not to dismantle it. And for you to know it, the best person to show you the ropes is actually this mother. The last point I wanted to say, Prof, I wanted to say in the book is that I was 25, 26 when I got married. I have been with my mother-in-law for 26 years before she passed. What it means is that the first 25 years of my life, my mother did the best she can to bring me up to that point, in between boarding schools and universities and all of that. But from that point on forward, this mother grooms you to be a woman. And she's continuing from where your mother left. She's taking you to the next level of womanhood. and all of that. And so by not allowing this relationship to work, you are depriving yourself of this free mentor, as far as I'm concerned, that can take your life from 26, she was 54 when, I was 54 when she passed on. At that time, she was comfortable that I am woman enough. It is okay to go. And I also felt that she's done her best. And if anything fails from there, it's not because of her. So all of these things, I just want to see the privilege we're leaving behind when all we talk about is this nasty mother-in-law. There's a lot we're leaving behind. And all you have is this giggling jokes in the stock files when you talk about mother-in-law from hell, when in fact they are great mothers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What a different book. What an unusually different take. A book about women relating to women. A book about daughter-in-law and mother-in-law. It's very different from what we are used to. It seems to me, Dr. Sirobe, that you met a great guy called Gawa Sirobe, but you fell in love with his mother. Is that a good summary?
Sitting in the book, we dated for 6 months when we got married. So maybe the most important thing here is, please don't over-interview this guy. Don't subject him to all manner of analysis, over-analysis. He's just as young as you are. He's bumbling along too. But to put him into this big box of ticking whatever, maybe we shouldn't do that. I hadn't met his family. Interestingly, I met his mother when we went shopping for my dress, for my wedding dress. Why is that? We're quite keen to meet the person who's dating your daughter and all of that, of course. But we also come from homes where this was not quite encouraged. Dating was still a bit of a scam, right? But because we were dating, we had dated for a very short time, I hadn't really met his family. So, meaning Prof, I fell in love with him, and then they followed. When I was already there, they had no choice. They had to love me. I was there now. Yeah. And I think the second thing is that maybe if I met them, maybe I would have thought, no, that's not what I want. So all these surprises were nice to unpack. But as soon as I saw the family, I saw people were very close. My mother-in-law was very close to her children, extremely close. They spoke like friends, they spoke like whatever, but we were never confused about who's in charge. It was a beautiful, happy home in that forum that my husband or her refused me to join them in the house. So no, I met her after.
But But you did fall in love with her.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Yeah.
So, where do boys and girls today learn how to be men and women? Who teaches them, especially in families where the father, the mother-in-law are not taking those roles or are simply not there because they have died? Where do they go to learn how to be a woman and how to be a man? I mean, you have a son, for example. I do have a son too. In this world where the black family and the white family also, the Indian family also, is not as intact as it used to be. How do we learn where do we learn to be men and to be women and who are responsible if we don't have the kind of chance and opportunity that you had?
The way I see it, Prof, is that it's a privilege to have a wide network of family. It is a disadvantage to be a nuclear family. Me and my husband, we only have one child. It's much easier to run this 3-family thing. But what can I learn from that? So the big family system, you've got to be plugged into it. That's where you learn, as far as I'm concerned. What that big family system also says, even if you do not have mother and father then anymore, that system gives you the place and the platform to learn. What do you do with the funeral? How does a leader of this family gets buried? Is it at 12 o'clock? Is it at 7 a.m.? Do you slaughter a cow or do you slaughter a sheep? What happens when a child is born? What do you do with ngeXhosa sithi inkaba yakhe? What do you do with it? You just leave it at the hospital or there is a ritual around it? Those things you cannot learn in this family of 3 people. You learn it in the bigger family system. What happens with the weddings? Who is that delegation that goes to negotiate the lobola? It's not a light-hearted. I've seen young people collecting their friends and going and negotiating a lobola. Can't be like that. In this delegation, in our case as the Sothos, there has got to be a Rakgadi in it. And the most important uncles, and so on and so on. Now, as a mother with a son, would I learn that from my husband? No. I can only learn it from the bigger family system. So I think, Prof, that where do we all both learn? Both husband and wife, they learn from the family system. What happens malume banban when this and this happens? You follow those rules and those protocols, and that's how you learn. Everything else of being a beautiful wife and dressed up nicely, you can get that from your friends. You can even hire a fashion specialist and so on and so on. But for example, in siXhosa, why are they insisting on you putting this thing on your scarf, right? Yeah, what do they want? Why are they doing that? Why are being asked to cover your head in a duku? even if it's hot. So all these things, in a kind, loving environment, you can ask them calmly without ridiculing them. Somebody's there to explain for you. Why are you doing ABC? So I think that it is from the family system as opposed to there's a book there and all of that. And I think the best way to learn, Prof, is don't object to everything. When they say you must not wear pants to go whatever, what is this war about now? And whenever I've been asked this thing, I said, do you have a dress or you don't have a dress? Yes, I have a dress, so put on your dress. It's just for this weekend. That's all they're asking you. Nkgono uyangcwatywa this weekend. So for this whole week, all the senior people of this family are in and out of this house. All this mother is saying is, looking decent in this family means a dress, long, and duku, and just, it's really only 7 days, guys. Just do it. Just do it. Can't be that painful. And so you learn from the family system, really, as far as I'm concerned. Thanks, Prof.
The final one before I ask the Papama is so, where does this thing come from in the Sirobe family? Where you guys are helping kids to go to school, where you are involved in charities, where you are fundraising, where you are in community building, and your mother-in-law is a nurse and she's busy, she's in this committee and that committee with Salimotlana, and you are dealing with the economic situation of the township. Where is that coming from? Because you could have just focused on your family and yourselves, and you end up with Wippold and end up on the presidential task team. Epuma pile.
On that first weekend after we got married, so I'm now a Makoti now. Everybody has gone back to Cape Town, and all these dishes now.
And you were not very good at chores.
So this whole thing now, you have to show your how powerful you are on this matter. Luckily, they had left me with my younger sister. That's what families do. They leave you with a younger sister for a bit, I think, to show you the ropes. This one was a big help for me because even though she was my younger sister, she knew better what to do with this whole thing. There was truly no progress on my side. And I think she tried to cover up and all of that. And there's a part in the book that says then my mother came from Cape Town to see my mother-in-law, her first conversation with her was, Mkhosi, you must forgive her. Of all my children, she's one who didn't grow up under me. She was always in boarding school, and my mother was apologizing for my thingy of she was embarrassed. I think she got the report from my sister that it was such a disaster. And it turns out my mother-in-law saw that on day one. And all she did then was to say, maybe too late for now. Let me use her, where I think I can. And so, and this is where the clash, I think, sometimes with the mothers-in-laws. The other one will ridicule you on this matter and chap about you and all of that. My mother-in-law elegantly dragged me along to all her community work. Hence all these organizations. And she would proudly introduce me. Keep go to work or go Cape Town. Wamutsiba, right? Oh, Obanyala go Cape Town, Mauban. That time is 20 years later. She still describes me as Makoto go Cape Town. But she took me along to her community work, community organizations. And so I would be doing the things there, making tea, coffee for them, sometimes taking their minutes of the meetings. I was made to work there. She dutied me there. And very interesting because you guys are sitting here. Universities don't have NGO conversations, right? You can come in and go, and you've never seen any of these things. And me being in those meetings, you actually hear that, there's so much wrong. There's so much social ills. These people are trying to fix ABC and so on. You learn from that. So in the end, that's what happened to me. And all these organizations are dealing with different things. YWCA, Kaheng Women, National Women, whatever, all of them. And so in the end, what then I saw was that maybe it is not enough to be just a successful professional, to be a successful business woman. Maybe it is not enough to be known on these things alone. What is required of you is use your privileged space to actually look back and see which part of this can I fix. Who am I in the system? You have to go back. So Tsendani is a very poor place in the country, it's the poorest town in all of South Africa. You have to go back and talk about how do you enable it to move from that status. If I'm sitting in a board of a bank and we're talking about loans, why are women failing to pass through this process? So in that board of the bank, I will ask to be in the credit committee to learn about it first, and secondly to say, how do I make this credit committee process make women it possible for them to actually pass the test of bank loans and so on and so on. When my mother-in-law talks about the blind people, seemingly a disease, I think, Prof, still hasn't been a cure for it, from what I understand. That was the biggest nightmare. But the blind people, how do you work around them? How do you make their lives a bit different and mobile and all of that? So every time I make a corporate decision, wherever I am, I test it against what can it possibly do for who? Because I'm privileged. I'm in this platform. All the brains are here. How do I drag you to Mhlabuya Lingana in KZN to heavy lift that poverty there? How do I look at your agriculture department to actually make a difference in Malelane in Limpopo? So next week, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to Sukmekar on Snake in Limpopo. It's about that communal land. How do you make it commercial for these people now that they've won their land claims, but now they are sitting with it? And so every decision I make is informed about is informed by that. So back to your question, in our little spaces of being professionals and businesswomen, that's too little. You're too big. And why don't you use your platform to rearrange the rest of South Africa? That is what occupies us most. And you get more joy, more fulfillment from this, because our little life, we are just competing. We are 5 CEOs for the same jobs. After that, there's no challenge anymore. You will find even the boards that I want to be part of now. Not so much the listed companies have done that, but now I want to be the boards of entities that are most challenged. And the one, for example, nobody understands why I'm in that board is Denel. Denel is most challenged. But Denel is the sovereign capability for this country on defense. In the absence of Denel, these soldiers and these police and all of those things that we look up to for security, they have to be armed and weaponized by Denel. And so its demise does not suit me, because that's a sovereign capability for the country. There's no country that depends on another country for its defense, for its weapons. When the chips are down, you're not going to ask for Germany to come and send police here to do ABC. So I'm challenged most by those things, Prof, because I look at where I am and how privileged I am, that I can lend my name to something and make it work. That is where my excitement comes from, as opposed to Businesswoman Awards. Of course, I love the awards, they're wonderful. But the excitement is exactly that you can make a difference.
We call it the fireside chat. I know there's no fire, but the fire came from Dr. Sirobe and Professor Maduleke. We want to invite you to the fireside chat and to participate and ask questions. I have a few names here, and I'm going to do a raffle so that the individuals here can ask questions. Are we okay with that? So when I pick your name, obviously I'll call out your name, but you introduce yourself, where you're coming from, and you shoot to the question. Short and sweet. Mr. Tseliso Mhlomi.
Thank you so much, Program Director, VC, and Chancellor. I am actually sitting here. I'm one of those interested in culture, and I think we are rewriting the script. It's a good book. My question comes with there is a warped notion that when one gets married, her family loses a daughter, and the other family is gaining a daughter. And this warped notion have also led to exacerbation of GBV because there would be that contestation. But what you have said when you were talking, you spoke about being the integration of two families. I would like you to expand a little bit about that, especially within a notion of building responsible communities.
Do you want to take that question, Doctor?
Thank you very much. I like the question because it's the unspoken thing. There shouldn't be any reason for your family losing a daughter. There should be a conversation about you have empowered your family to have more family. In my case, nowhere in the world could you have a family in Cape Town having a family in Johannesburg, or a Xhosa family, which I am, having a Sotho family. And so the reason for that first step of integration is exactly that. So one of the things my mother-in-law did very well was to be very close to our mothers. We were 3 Makotis. My mother was very close to our mothers. She adopted them as like sisters. Maybe that's a first big step, that you don't get lost in your home. Number 2, when something happens in Cape Town, a death or something, my mother would phone my mother-in-law. I would get my messages from my mother-in-law. So there should be no loss in the process. And I think the third one, which is not spoken about, is wives are always accused of doing more for their mothers and not the mother-in-law, and all of that kind of thing, and stealing money, sending to your mom, and so on and so on. It shouldn't be like that. You can be transparent about it. If your mother is living in a 2-room somewhere in Natal, and you live in a mansion in Sandton, you must be worried. You must be so worried about that. And I've seen people being embarrassed because friends have now accompanied them to bury their mother or their father and find this a horrible thing, and they cannot reconcile your big house in Sandhurst to this miserable home in Durban. Shouldn't be like that. So there is no loss, and there shouldn't be a loss. You must look at both homes, and you must enhance both homes and make it work. In the end, both of these people have invested in you and hoping for a better life. And so it's not necessary that much. One last point. When my mother passed on at 54 years, she was quite young. And when that message came, cut a long story short, my mother-in-law came to sleep with me in my bed, because that first night of hearing about your mother's passing is the most difficult night. You feel exposed, you feel stripped. You can't, because your mother is always going to be your confidant wherever you are. And so when life rips you apart, it's painful. But my mother-in-law slept with me in my bed, not in another bedroom. And so every time you are tossing and turning, picturing her big fat hand, she was it's always on your shoulders. What she's trying to translate to you is that you still have a mother. So in the end, there's no loss to anyone about this. You are gaining. And just embrace the gain. Just accept it. Thanks.
Raffle again. Tulwane Puleng. Oh, there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tulwane Puleng. Mrs. Serobe, thank you for sharing a heartwarming experience of having a good relationship with your in-laws, your mother-in-law. So what I want to ask is that what role or a support did your husband give you to settle in your new life? Thank you.
All of my husband. Eh?
Your partner, yes, your partner.
Eh?
Like, what role did your partner play? Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
What role did your partner play in helping you to settle in your new family? Like the support, what support that he gives you to play? I mean, to settle in your new family.
Okay. His big job is to love me dearly. That's his job. He promised me that, isn't it? But then, when we create this tension between yourself and his mother, you crippling him from playing that role. He is fighting battles that he shouldn't be fighting. You are subjecting him to so much turmoil, to be honest. When in fact, there is no competition between you and his mother. What you need from him are different things. I always say that your biggest enemies are outside. It's not her. You might need her as your ally when that comes. What is that book? Istanbul something on TV now. Yeah, it looks quite hectic, right? But if you have a strong matriarch, you won't be subjected to that. So what role does a husband play? The husband's role is really to help you navigate these family issues. Difference is that though, he is just as young. He's just as young. If there's a horrible aunt in the family to you, your husband is not able to answer back. He just melts and cows down. And then you are expecting him to fight your battles. He's not capable of doing that because our culture is that you don't talk up to old people. You must be respectful in spite. The person who will challenge that is your mother-in-law. So it looks to me that the role your husband must play is to straddle these two homes of yours. He must also just be as keen to be supportive to your own original home and be that mkhwenyana. Omkhwenyana bayathandwa ke, Prof, most of the times. Omkhwenyana, they are having a wonderful time. Nobody wants to touch them. The sisters, when they talk about, Smari, what, there's no challenge. But but with a husband, allow him to give you the love that he promised you simply because you have given him the environment that is such that enables him to do so. And don't put him at loggerheads with his siblings, with his parents, and so on, because in the end, I can tell you this for free, on that battle with your mother-in-law, you're going to lose it. And you must lose it, because that's not your business. You found this family living in a particular way, you come and rearrange it in the most negative way, and you think for a short time you will win him because he's still grappling with how to, but let me tell you something, it's not sustainable. You are going to lose him back to his family. So if you really love him to such an extent, make it work for him.
Can we have a question from Malisela Mashitiso?
Thank you very much. Let me thank the Vice Chancellor for a nice introduction to the book. It was quite insightful. And let me again thank Dr. Sorobe. My question is, what are some of the difficulties or challenges that you have encountered while writing the book, and can you please share them with us?
So because I was running out of time, I just in December 22, I felt I must write this book once and for all and launch it on August 23, which is 10 years. And so there wasn't much time between going ahead with the book and the launching it. The first challenge was that no publisher wanted to do it. Two reasons. One, the topic itself is a non-topic. It won't sell, and all of that is not exciting. But the second challenge was that the time was short, 6 months. And so the one publisher that agreed to do the book said to me, I will help you do it, but your timetable is going to be very tight. So the first challenge was that tight timetable. For it to be launched in August, it had to go to print 1st of July. For it to go to print 1st of July, it must mean I finished everything, editing everything, end of May. And the typesetting and all those words about the book. So the challenge of time was major. That's one. Two, but that was backed by the excitement I had about it. I did not suffer research issues because I was writing out of my body system. That's what I promised the publisher, that there's no third-party research here. I'm writing from my own self, and so it should work. If there are any things of clarification, it will be between Umakhadebe and Umakotan, who's older, who's younger. When you write on the family tree, make sure the sequence is right. In that case, then I must go to Tabanju. I must make sure that I'm not bastardizing the family system. Quite interesting is a family that actually found a lot of education from the book. They also didn't know themselves. So the challenge really for me was time. Everything else was a breeze. And of course, for those of you who don't know, this is my first book, and I don't write very well. I'm not good at that. So I wanted it to be a conversational book. And so the biggest challenge was to make sure that between me and the editors and the publishers, even as they correct something, don't change my conversation and leave it at that and make it easy, because I only read easy books as well. So that is what maybe, but the challenge of research and getting more information, no, because I was writing from my stomach. And it was easy in that sense.
It's a beautiful book, actually. You think the publishers might have been more interested if the title was Managing a Difficult Mother-in-Law?
Something.
Very interesting, Prof. Okay, may we... Dr. Emily Mabote?
Thank you, Program Director, and good day, Dr. Gloria, our Chancellor, and thanks for sharing this beautiful story of your relationship with your mother-in-law. This story has really motivated some of us, and it will, I think, motivate future Makotis. It will give them hope that this is possible. But the question that I have, can you please share with us your journey of adaptation in your new family and building of relationships with them? Because what you shared with us, it was good, strong relationships, but please share with us this journey, especially your adaptation within this new family. Thank you.
It's a good question, because you're coming from wherever, you are joining an ecosystem that is already alive over many years. And so the most important thing there is, the starting point is to understand that. If you are going to go into a Maluleke family with their own old system from many generations, the least you can do is to understand it. And so, for example, I come back to how you deal with death, because that's the depth of it. There are rituals there that follow. If you're burying Saturday, Sunday you do something, you come back, ukukhutshwa impahla, and whatever, then niyahlamba ngoku kwenziwa all manner of things. It's different from what we do in Cape Town. With the Sirobes and Noches, okwakuhlamba is very deep. It's very, very deep. For example, you do it at 3 a.m. You do it at 3 a.m. There's a reason it is being done at 3 a.m. It's because you have to do it before people start moving around. Sihlala ezilokishini. So yonke lento is a secret, is confidential. What you do there is not something that you can do during the day. And so my grandmother, hardly 6 months I was married, my grandmother was a matriarch of the family, passed on. Got married in January, passes on in June. And so when we do this funeral of hers, it's at the height of winter. At the height of winter. And all of these things must be done, including this one of Oklambis. With our modern life, you look at this and you question it. Who are you? It's not your thing, right? And why don't you learn from it? Mindful, you are going to leave children behind in this family. The last thing you need is to leave children who have no idea what happens here. You are no longer here. And children look up to you as a mother to whatever. So that ritual of ukuhlambiswa is an adaptation, because I come from another closer family with their strong things too. This just happens to be a different one. And so, are you going to question it on day one? No. But are you going to learn from it on day one? Yes. Because this is your first opportunity of experiencing this. Your poor 27-year-old husband is also his first experience. Families don't have death all the time. Of course, COVID created a different story. So the most important thing here is that even there's a hierarchy. I'm explaining this quite deeply so that you understand this adaptation thing. There is a hierarchy as to who washes first, followed by who, followed by who, followed by who. There's also a hierarchy on who actually conducts this. It's not just you feel inspired now and you're going to do this. So that Rakgadi who does this is an important part of this hierarchy. And in our hierarchy, I come after my mother-in-law. And all I have to do is to follow her and do what she does, except she couldn't protect me from the winter cold now and all of that. So adapting is a state of mind first. Accept that you are coming into people's ecosystem. Just like when you go and work at Standard Bank, you actually understand the Standard Bank ecosystem for you to succeed in it. And so is here in marriage, except that we think that we can wing it, kind of like that deep, deep lessons to be followed. By the time she passes on, I am the last word now in the family. Nothing moves until I say yes. She has put me in that position of authority on matters to do with this whole family system, because she was put in that position of authority by her own mother-in-law. And my job is to do the same to my young Makoti, because that family system cannot be broken by us. We are outsiders. Ours is to make sure we perpetuate and make it better. Most important, I am not saying for once that there's nothing that cannot be upgraded or improved or something like that. But you're not going to ask for a warm shower. Oh no, there's aloes, there's all sorts of things that go there. You can't improve on that. You can improve on those things that you can improve, but this is after first understand the system. It's your job.
How good was your Sisutu when you first got married? Osipedi.
The problem with Cape Town is that, I think more or less with Durban as well, is that we all live by ourselves. A Xhosa place is a Zulu place. Whereas in Johannesburg, you are, what is the word, mixed, metropolitan. You can learn all manner of languages. So my Sisutu was really non-existent. I'm even surprised I ended up there. It was not existent, yeah. But it's better. That's another point though. That family taught me that language you are going to learn with kindness. You can be perfect in Sesotho and be the rudest a person in this family. All these Rakhatis want to see is that you honor them and that you respect them and that their system, you also see it in that. So my Sesotho has been extremely slow, very, very slow. But not for lack of trying, Prof. It is there. But after 37 years of marriage, now I have no excuse. Yeah, no, I have no excuse. I do speak Sotho quite well.
You should feel thankful that the Sirovers are not from Limpopo. Apparently, the guys from Limpopo keep on saying, Bom Mabari. And once they say Bom Mabari, my mother says, but I think your strategy would deal with the mother, the way you have explained it. But what about these guys who think they are not interested in getting married? they just don't want to get married, and they are happy to be as they are, oh maskal sanaba, and so on. What is your word to them?
And usually those guys are the ones who always talk about my mom, my dad, remember? My grandmother, my grandfather. So when he doesn't want to get married, what does it say his children are going to be? My mom, my dad, my grand. When you come from these warm homes, you will understand that somebody has a duty to make it a warm home. The family system, I'm strongly for it. I support it. Not that it is without challenges. But I think like any other program, I think we should be intentional about it. There's even in Xhosa, the pride about my clan. Dingumam Chawe, Dingumabanban, Kibataung, Bebamfukeng, and all of that. In this little unit of yours, none of that. Because if Maslalisan, it's very awkward to take this girl to your family event. It's very awkward. It's compromising everyone. Because the old people now don't know what to do with her. It's terrible. It's really terrible. And stuff happens, right? Stuff happens. Your mother dies now. And then kukhona lo sisophithizelayo apha and with long nails and beautiful hair and all of that. And most of these old people find it awkward even to address her because of that. So first encouragement I really want to make is to the guys that actually it's nice to be married. It's very nice to be married. It's beautiful to be married. Just don't be unfair to this girl and keep her in your apartment and not give her this honor of being Mrs. So-and-so. At most, for the sake of your children, do the right thing.
They are totally in agreement with you, Doctor. Because we're running out of time, I'd like to invite Prof. Nteboge Mokgalaka. She's the Executive Dean at the Faculty of Science, to respond to Dr. Serobe's book, but also the engagement that we had today. Round of applause for her, please.
Good afternoon. My back. Thank you so much, Mama Dr. Serobe, for such a wonderful tribute, such a beautiful, beautiful book. You've said so many things, and I'm turning, to really address you. But as a mother of a 23-year-old who maybe in the next few years will tell me that she also is getting married, hopefully not via WhatsApp. But you said my role as a mother for the first 20 so years of her life is to prepare her for life. But it is Bomma, the mother-in-law, who's actually going to shape her life to be a future Bomma, and also she will be her social currency, to the different networks, but also cement her authority. And I really like that in the family ecosystem and structures. So thank you so much for that. So I was asked to respond, so I'm going to keep it very short. But I think you would all agree that after a year of the launch of the book, an ode to my mother-in-law, Mama Winnie Serobe, a mentorship of love and honor, and also the 11th anniversary of the passing away of Kuku Winnie Serobe's, that Dr. Gloria Serobe really took us on a beautiful journey of reflection on her relationship with her beautiful mother-in-law. This book is a heartfelt tribute that captures the essence of a profound relationship between a daughter-in-law and her mother-in-law. Throughout the book, I read themes of love, respect, and the invaluable lessons that one can learn through mentorship by shadowing an incredible mama-in-law like Mama Winnie. I found the book, and you're writing, Mama, and no wonder you said you wrote it from your stomach. I found the writing, it was both intimate, reflective, and highlighting the wisdom that Mama Winnie imparted on you through your personal anecdotes, some of them you shared with us, and also your experiences. Throughout the book, Dr. Serobe illustrates how her mother-in-law's guidance shaped her life and values. The narrative celebrates the unique bond that transcends generational gaps, emphasizing the importance of familial connections and the role of women in nurturing and mentoring. In a society where the relationship between a makoti and her bomma is vilified most of the time, and with so many stories that we hear and even experience, maybe some of us about our mother-in-laws, on TV, in media, stories that are portrayed are not really good stories. They actually portray the monsters in law. But this story really turned it around, and it shows a very beautiful relationship that can come out from being yourself, loving another human being, another woman, and just welcoming them into your space. So the stories that we hear about all that of nepotic kind, the blaming kind, you can't cook, you can't wash dishes, but this was not so. In Dr. Serobe's book, she tells tales of a different kind, the ones which are less told, and I'm very privileged that I got an opportunity to read that and experience that through her book. The healthy relationships between women, the empowering kinds that have nothing to do with the popular cliche of the pull hair down syndrome, that we all call the PhD. However, it speaks of love, true love, and the journey of becoming. Mama Winnie was an exceptional person. One of many that the Makotis would have loved, at least I would have loved to have as a mother-in-law. I mean, she would open doors for me. I would be winning awards now. Mother-in-laws that hold, nurture, and support their Makotis while they are kotisang. The prize in this book is imbued with warmth and gratitude, making it a very uplifting read. I did a speed read on this book, but I found Dr. Serobe's ability to convey deep emotions very easily, and it really resonated with me, and I know it will resonate with you, inviting on the readers to reflect on their own relationships with mentors and family members. Overall, this book not only honors Mama Winnie Serobe's legacy, but also serves as a reminder of the power of love and mentorship in our lives. It is a touching homage that is relatable and inspiring. As I read further, I also realized that the teachings of honoring your parents took center stage in this well-crafted piece. The second fundamental principle of marriage and dealing with in-laws is that we are to honor our parents. And this is stated in the Bible in Exodus 20, verse 12. The command that does not cease once we are married, but it continues with us throughout life. This message comes out strongly from the beginning to the last page of this book. Worth mentioning is that Dr. Serobe credits a big part of her success to Mama Winnie's networks that she exposed her to very early on in her marriage and also in her career. And the lessons and the learnings around caring for the community, lifting others as you rise, and the true meaning of living a life of service. And you have heard for yourself how she takes that very seriously, even in the board memberships that she chooses to belong to. As I close, and also reflected in the book, Mama Winnie was an amazing inspiration to many, at least to me. She did not let the limiting beliefs of others, or maybe even the dogmatic apartheid and patriarchal roles at that time, to hold her back from pursuing a meaningful life. She impacted so many people's lives and left them better than she found them. This book is an opportune reminder, especially during Women's Month, to apply these lessons in today's situations for a better tomorrow for all South Africans. But without spoiling and sharing too much, I think you will have to read the book. It's here, it's on sale, and please get a copy. You will not regret it. And thank you so much, Dr. Serobe. Thank you, VC.
Indeed, we shouldn't spoil it too much. Thank you very much, Prof. Mokhalaka. A round of applause for her, please. But some of you will get a copy. Not all of you. Some will, again, the same drift. We do a raffle, and if I call your name, you come get a copy, right? Crossing fingers. Can I get a drum roll? Thank you. Precious Masinya. Regina Muhlomi. Let me put it back. I mean, she's one of the organizers as well, and give others an opportunity to win, right? Yeah, okay. Tsepiso Kampepe. I'm hoping, really hoping, crossing fingers that it's all women getting the book today. Yeah. Susan Marotoki. The spelling is a bit, yeah. Suzanne? Oh! Nolutando, no surname, but just Nolutando. Okay. How many to go? 4? I thought I'm keeping one for myself, but anyway, it's fine. Kidding. Tsiole Sibulelo. Ke lebogile. Zianda. There's 2 kilobahiles. Oh, no. Come get. And there's one more to go. Caroline Khwatane. It was open. There's more. There's actually more. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much and congratulations to all who won the book. I'd like now to invite Dr. Shafika Dokrat, the Director for Student Development and Support and Chair of the Women in Leadership Forum, for the closing remarks. A round of applause for her.
I thought I'd rather come and sit here, so my back is not to you. Good afternoon, everyone. The book resonated with many aspects of my life too. Like, I'm sure that there's at least one aspect in the book that every person in this room will resonate with, regardless of gender. In my childhood home, we were 9 people, 6 were women, and spread over 3 generations. So you can imagine, ground zero was the kitchen. I admired your ability to not sweat the small stuff, like when your mother-in-law donated your clothes to the Council of the Blind. You will have to read the book to get...
That must have upset her.
You will have to read the book to get the full story there. Hey, that was something. One of my key takeaways from the book, and I quote, "It is practically impossible to have the perfect balance between one's home, life, and career. Without doubt, one or another will have to take a knock from time to time. In my opinion, anyone who believes that they have it all do not know what they are actually missing out on. Everything that we do is at the opportunity cost of something else. We need to take off the superwoman cape sometime." Another important lesson: build a village. As we have moved towards focusing on our nuclear families, we've gradually disengaged from our extended networks. And these are critical support systems. We need to resume building those villages. Most importantly, thank you for sharing a bit about yourself with us through this book. We have a deeper understanding now of who the woman Gloria is, beyond the title of our Madam Chancellor. Or as your uncle would say, tomato, there's a story there. We would love to hear it sometime. Thank you for being here with us today. We have a little token of appreciation for you. We would also like to thank our VC, Prof. Maluleke, and Dr. Nteboge Mogalaka, as well as the coordinating team for putting together this amazing function. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause to Dr. Shafika. This VC's Book of the Month was quite unique. You would agree, right? Quite profound, quite inspiring, and the fact that we're celebrating Women's Month, it means even more. So thank you so much to all the women that graced us here with their presence. From staff, we have alumni, students as well. So thank you so much. There'll be an opportunity for a book purchase and signing. All EMC members and deans are requested to go to 4th floor for lunch, and we can all then have lunch just outside the foyer. But thank you so much. Keep your eyes glued to our social media pages, for the next VC's Book of the Month, where you'll get an opportunity to even win a book. So thank you so much.